Welcome to a very special edition of Andy Staples on 3. We are picking the ultimate college football teams for 2024. It is me. It is Cody Bellaire, our national scout here at On 3. We are picking the best players who will be playing in college football in 2024 in a draft to determine who is the superior GM. Me, some idiot who's been writing stories and doing shows, or Cody, who has actually worked in college football personnel offices. I'd say I feel pretty good about my list. I feel good about my board. Here was the assignment. You are creating a team from scratch using players that are going to be in college football in 2024. You have to decide what offense are you going to run, what defense are you going to run, and build around your own schemes. You could also decide what your university does, what kind of majors you have. That's fine. You know, Staples, A&M, we've got 12-ounce fluid dynamics. That's our most popular major. We're not the most academically rigorous school in the country. We pretty much take anybody with a pulse. But what that means is we can order from the entire menu when we're recruiting football players. This time we're not recruiting, though. We are drafting. We are choosing the best players for our scheme who will be playing college football in 2024. And remember, like our friend Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl has pointed out multiple times, this is about to be the deepest season of college football talent because of a confluence of events. You have the COVID year. This is really the last of the COVID year guys. The oldest people will be COVID year guys in this situation. And then you also have NIL, where people are saying, you know what? I may be a 6th-round pick, a 7th-round pick. I'm going to stay in college and be a starter and a big shot on campus for another year, going to make some money, and then I'll go to the NFL. So we've got a lot to choose from, and it's one of those things where you don't feel terribly bad if you miss on a pick here because you're going to get somebody good. But I got a very specific strategy with mine, and I will be heartbroken, crestfallen, you name it, if Cody takes some of these guys that I really want. Let us bring on Cody Bellaire, the president of Cody Bellaire University and athletic director and head coach and GM. How are we doing?
Man, Andy, I got to be honest with you. When you first pitched this idea to me, the juices started flowing again. You know what I mean? You got back in the driver's seat a little bit. You start looking at players. You start scheming things up. And I was like, oh my God, I am going to crush him when this happens. So I am fired up for today, Andy. Fired up.
So John in the chat has already suggested four Michigan players for us. And here's the thing. So he suggested Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant as DT1 and DT2. He suggested Colston Loveland as the tight end, Will Johnson as CB1. These are all guys that are in the mix.
Absolutely. I was going to say, these guys are definitely in the 2 deep. So we might get to all 4 of them, at least half. I feel good about half, but we might touch all 4.
I feel very good because I will admit they're all on the board somewhere. So it really just depends on who you take and who's available, but they're all on the board. And that should tell you something. Like, we don't know what Michigan's quarterback situation is going to be. It looks like right now they're rolling with somebody who's on campus. So I'm thinking Alex Orji, but they are going to be so good defensively that it is going to be very tough to beat them, no matter how many or few points they score. So
no question. And honestly, loaded. Maybe that fits to Alex Orji's strength. That dude wants to run the rock. That defense is only going to give up 10, 15 points a game. Yeah. Just go ahead and run the clock out, guys. Like, you got it. Easy money.
Yeah. And Michigan running the ball down your throat while playing tough defense. Well, we've seen that works. There's proof of concept there.
Yep. I've heard this song before. I know how this one goes.
So, all right. So let's talk about the schemes, because I think that's important. You know, people look at this and a lot of times they do it and they just pick, okay, these are the best players. These are the guys who are going to go highest in the NFL draft next year. This is not an NFL draft exercise, though a lot of the guys we're picking are going to be first rounders in the NFL draft in coming years. But this is a college football exercise. We are trying to create the best college football team, which means who you pick, especially at quarterback, is very dependent on your offense. So Cody. What offense are we running?
Yeah, we're running what I like to call the smash mouth air raid offense, right? So think about those offenses with Lincoln Riley, right? At Oklahoma, this isn't your old school Mike Leach, throw it all over the yard air raid. This is an offense that wants to run the football. You'll see a lot of counter runs in this offense, a healthy amount of both zone and power, but we can win vertically in the passing game with some play action, some RPOs sprinkled in. We'll do a little bit of pistol. We'll have some standard shotgun sets, but no matter how we line up on offense, we are going to paper cut you to death when we have the football. It's all about moving the chains consistently and hitting the occasional home run ball in explosive play. Now, defensively, Andy, we got a different ball game going. We are aggressive. We got what I call the Grim Reaper 3-3-5, baby. This is essentially the Tony White scheme that he was running right now as the defensive coordinator at Nebraska and what he was running at Syracuse before that. It's a very aggressive style of 3-3-5 compared to what John Heacock's version is at Iowa State, which is a much more conservative version of this defense. But you're probably wondering, why do I call it the Grim Reaper 3-3-5? Well, we are going to constantly kill. You like that, Andy? Kill offensive drives by sacking the quarterback, create negative plays. The ability to scheme up these ultra-talented hybrid football players is essentially screaming for me to have the 3-3-5. With this scheme, it's in this absurdly loaded roster, right? We can do all sorts of things to suffocate offenses. We have limitless blitz combinations. We have versatility. We can drop 8 defenders in base to prevent the pass, or we can stack 6 defenders in the box and play cover 0. You can't double team us in the run game because the offensive line has to manage our run fits and our gap discipline. It's caked into the scheme, Andy. That's the beauty of it.
You're running the triple option of defenses is what you're doing.
Exactly.
It's that week where none of your run fits work and you have to learn new run fits.
100%.
No,
yep. We're having one-on-one matchups everywhere, man. And I'm going to wish you luck in scoring against us.
Well, so I will start with my defense, and I went with a 4-2-5 that we're calling the best 11 because I'm basically looking at the talent here, and this is a year where there's elite D-line talent, elite secondary talent. Linebackers, they're good, but it's not as deep. Like, I can get game-changing dudes all over the D-line. And so, and I always tell people, if you want to run an even front defense, a primary even front defense, you better have a perfect defensive line. I can do that. I can have, and the thing is, especially with some of the better tackles, the versatility is so great that if you want to drop somebody back, and I will choose at least one edge rusher who I'm comfortable with in coverage, and I can go odd front if I want to, because I'll have D tackles that I'm comfortable playing at a 5 technique outside when I'm in an odd front. And so I'm good with that. So I like the versatility that gives me. And I don't, like you said, the 3-3-5, you're practicing a lot more. You're thinking a lot more. You're causing the offensive line to think, I'm going to overwhelm you with my talent more than anything else. That's how I'm going to roll here. It's sort of like you talk to people who played Alabama defensively, and they're like, well, they weren't that exotic. They didn't have terribly exotic blitzes. Yeah, I'm like, because they had better players than you.
It's not rocket science, guys. It's not.
That's where I'm going with that. And also, look, the way most offenses are, not my offense, but most offenses, yours is one of them.
Yeah.
I need 5 DBs on the field in base.
Sure.
Now I'm going to have, and I'm not even going to do like the hybrid. There will be a hybrid kind of safety linebacker-ish, nickel-ish guy, but he still may only be a 210-pound guy that was recruited originally as a corner. I need coverage. Coverage is more important than almost anything else.
A little bit there, Andy. I like it.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie here. This is what works unless you're playing me, and I'll tell you why. So my offense is going to be called the Go-Go Gadget offense. I'm stealing liberally from Brendan Marion at UNLV. He's got the Go-Go offense. So Brendan Marion at UNLV, Think Jamie Chadwell at Liberty. Shotgun most of the time. Our run game is based on the triple option. Lots of triple option principles. We're a 2-back, 1 tight end team. And I know what you're saying. 2 backs. Okay. The way running backs work these days, you've got guys who can be your best slot receiver, who can play running back too. Like, there are so many different things you can do with this. You can take one of those backs out of the backfield, line him up in the slot, move your tight end over, and essentially line him up as a fullback and run your same triple option principles. There's so many ways to run this offense. But the thing I like about it is it forces the defense to handle the 3 triple option things every play, but also cover vertical shots down the field. And that's brutally hard. Your linebackers are just going to be confused all the time. Yeah. And what, for those who don't, what are the 3 triple option things? You have the dive, you have the keep, you have the pitch. Dive, hand off to the first guy through. Keep, obvious, the quarterback keeps. Yeah. Pitch, you're pitching to a guy who's running kind of parallel to the quarterback. So, and also the things you can do off this, you can have your standard inside zone, outside zone. And the thing about like the Brennan Marion offense, he'll tell you for the offensive linemen, they're blocking. It is not like Service Academy offensive line play. Like, you're not cutting and scrambling like you do in a normal triple option. You're blocking inside zone, outside zone. Because of the talent of the offensive linemen we have, we're going to have some gap scheme stuff. We're going to run counter. Like, we'll be pinning and pulling too, because we're going to have freak athletes.
Right. You're going to dress up 21 personnel a lot of different ways. And that does scare me a little bit, to be honest.
Exactly. And that's the thing.
Yeah.
And you'll see, we'll see if you, how deep on the board you go, how you feel about your tight, because you're going to draft a tight end in your offense. So I've got to deal with that and hope you don't pick the person I want.
Right.
But I have hand selected somebody who I think was a mismatch nightmare, because that's a person, like, I'm going to move him all over the place. He's going to be lined up on linebackers on some plays, and he's going to destroy people. Like, think Isaiah Likely when he was playing at Coastal Carolina.
Interesting. Could it be a guy in maize and blue? Who knows? We're going to find out.
Could be. We've had that suggestion. We've had that suggestion. All right. Before we get to the picks, I do want to give a big thank you to Rowback for sponsoring this episode. See it right here. Got my Rowback Performance hoodie on. The most comfortable hoodies, polos, shorts, you name it. I love my Rowback hoodies. Like I say, they get stolen by family members. That's why I've got so many of them. But they are the perfect multi-purpose, absolutely most comfortable thing in your wardrobe. Perfect for every situation. Go to rowback.com. That is RHOBACK.com. Use the code Andy for 20% off your first order. Load up on those hoodies. The polos are awesome. The shorts are great. The joggers are cool. You name it. Rowback.com. Code Andy, 20% off your first order. All right, let us get to the draft picks. Rowback is obviously my number 1 draft pick. The Performance hoodie is 1-1 on my board. But Cody, we got to get going. You are the guest, so I am going to let you pick first. And I will say, another place where this differs from the NFL draft, like I do think positional preference, like in the NFL, it goes quarterback, it goes offensive tackle, interior D-line, lockdown corner, receiver. Like, those are your key positions. I think most of those apply here. I don't know if quarterback applies as much because we are so scheme specific.
Agreed. And I think it's going to go to your point that we talked about earlier. It's going to be very scheme specific. So there's a multitude of players that are sort of key factors for each of our offenses and defenses. So I think it's going to vary on how much we value certain players, especially amongst certain position groups. So I'm really nervous and very excited. Would you like me to start
the key is, like, with your first pick, you got to take somebody you think I definitely want.
Correct. And with that, so maybe this isn't the case, right? Which makes me kind of on my heels a little bit, but I'm so confident in what this person does for our team. I'm not going to tease it. It's Caleb Downs from the Ohio State Buckeyes. The origin of the Rover role for this defense was Brian Urlacher at New Mexico in the late 90s. And it was essentially a free safety linebacker hybrid. They had Brian Urlacher standing there at the top in center field, flying downhill. This guy was asked to patrol the middle of the field. He had free reign over the top of the defense to run the alley, fly downhill to stop the run, or back off and play as a single high center fielder in zone. Andy, this is the guy that fills up the stat sheet. They're going to lead the team in tackles. They'll constantly be around the football, but they also have to have the athletic ability to play zone and man coverage and make plays on the football in the air. This position was made for Caleb Downs, who, by the way, tallied 100+ tackles last season as a true freshman at Alabama, which led the team, by the way. And he also picked off 2 passes and had 4 PBUs. He is going to be a menace in year 2. And this player is the one who makes our defense move, and it fits Caleb Downs' game perfectly. Pick number 1. Caleb.
That's the thing. You're getting the unique guys that
yep.
that you can't get somewhere else. I'm gonna get one of those guys.
Okay.
Because what did I just say? I just said I'm gonna run a triple option based offense where the offensive linemen are going to block much more like conventional offensive linemen. I need them to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
I can't waste time not having a great offensive line. It's interesting because this offense was designed so that you could run it effectively without a good offensive line.
Sure.
If you have a great offensive line, no one can stop you.
Fair.
So my first pick, Will Campbell, left tackle from LSU.
Hitting me in the heart immediately.
That's exactly right. This guy's got sewing machine feet. He was plug and play at left tackle from the moment he set foot on campus. He's going into his junior year. He's going to be a very high draft pick in 2025. You think about what LSU has to replace. You lose a Heisman Trophy winner in Jaden Daniels. You lose 2 first-round receivers in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. But you have Will Campbell and Emory Jones at your tackles, and you feel very good about Garrett Nussmeier taking over as a starting quarterback because he's protected by those guys. So Will Campbell, my number 1 pick.
That's strong. I see you pulling at the heartstrings early, which is an interesting choice, throwing me off my game early. But
I knew you wanted him too. That's the other thing.
I mean, is he tackle 1 for me? Possibly. But we're going to go ahead. We're going to pick an offensive player ourselves as well.
Okay. Oh, and don't you do it.
Interesting. You're probably thinking, oh man, Andy just took a tackle. I guess he's got to take the other one.
That's not what I'm thinking. That's not what I'm thinking. I'm very worried about a skill position player here.
We're going skill, but we're going to wide receiver. We're going to take a guy named Luther Burden from Mizzou.
All right. Yeah. I wanted him, but there was another guy I was worried you were going to pick here.
Interesting. Yeah. Not much to explain here, really, but Luther Burden is simply the most complete receiver in the country. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands, finishing top 5 in the FBS in yards after catch. He has ridiculously strong hands at the catch point, only dropping 4 of his 94 catchable targets last season. He can run every route on the route tree. Plus, he has the ability to get vertical downfield with his 4.4 speed. I can line him up at X. I can line him up at Z. I can line him up in the slot. He can win at every level of the field, and he's the clear number 1 pass catcher in college football next season. But most importantly, he's the clear number 1 pass catcher for Cody Bellaire University and number 1 choice on the offensive side of the ball.
So now I think I'm altering my strategy a little bit because I was going to go in the trenches again. But here's my issue. I have 2 receivers at the top of my board, and Luther Burden was one of them.
Yeah.
That I feel like are game-changing, ultra-dynamic. Everything changes when they're on the field. Sure. Every defense has to know exactly what they're doing every play. And if I don't have one of those, if I don't take one now, you might take that other guy. And I know you know who that is.
I might.
And so I'm going to do it. So there will be people who say this is a reach because I'm taking a guy who actually has not played a snap in a
I knew
college
you were gonna
football
go this
game right
way.
now.
I knew it was going to go this way.
Because I gotta have him.
You do.
I gotta
get
have
it.
this receiver.
I get it. Hey, man, he was the number 1 player in the country for a reason.
Jeremiah Smith, wide receiver from Ohio State. He has yet to play a snap in college football, but if you talk to anybody who has seen an Ohio State practice in the spring, who has seen this man play, he's going to be spectacular. He might be the best of this bunch of receivers that Ohio State has had over the last few years. And we're talking about Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, all of these guys. He might wind up being the best one of this whole bunch because he has the size, he has the speed, he has the agility, the body control. He came in, and they will tell you he came in more ready to go than Marvin Harrison Jr. did. And that is high praise. So yes, Jeremiah Smith, my wide receiver 1.
Andy, could you tell me who lost their black stripe the fastest in Ohio State history?
That would be Jeremiah Smith.
That would be Jeremiah Smith.
It was like 2 days into practice.
Yeah. I think it was quite literally 4, which is insane. That kid is a freak show. That's a good choice. He's really good. Here's the deal, Andy. I don't think I can just throw it to Luther Burden all day long. What did I say to preface this, right? We're going to be a team that runs the damn football.
That's right.
And if you're going to run the damn football, you got to have a guy to hand it to. And for me, that is going to be Oklahoma State's very own Ollie Gordon. Like I mentioned about my scheme at the top of the show, we're running the ball. And this is exactly what we plan on doing with the 2023 Doak Walker Award winner, unanimous All-American from Oklahoma State. Ollie Gordon's lining up in the backfield for us, and he truly is elite. I mean, he's NFL-ready size at 6'2", 220. He's such a patient, deliberate runner that has unbelievable vision combined with the rare burst and footwork for a back for his size is simply not normal. And most importantly for us, he can tote the rock all day long. He got nearly 300 carries last year. He's a legit workhorse back that can carry the load for this offense, and he was a no-brainer for me, Andy. No-brainer.
And he was a giant reach at this spot. What are we doing here?
Lord. Look, I got my number 1 option in the passing game, number 1 option in the running game. We're golden. We're golden. There's plenty of fish in the sea down here to fill out the rest of this group. We're good.
That's all right. I am going to take a guy that will probably be, depending on the quarterback situation, this guy might be the number 1 player off the board in the NFL draft in 2025. You're going to pick a quarterback a little later to throw to Luther Burden. Except you can't throw to Luther Burden if you're on your back because James Pierce Jr. just sacked you.
Yeah. Don't
James
love that.
Pierce from Tennessee. Let's go. Coming off the edge. I am going to have lots of ways to sack you on this team. That is my goal. It's not just my traditional edge rushers. I'm going to have interior pressure. I'm getting linebackers that can come get you. But this guy is a perfect just go beat the offensive tackle or whoever they send to chip you and go destroy the quarterback. Cannot wait.
Ugh. I don't love that, especially since I don't have a tackle currently. So I do not know who's going to be getting their butt kicked every day. So that'll be interesting for us. But you talk about sacking the quarterback, Andy. And it's funny, in this 3-3-5, there's this little position floating around out there. You see one of these little linebacker spots that River's
what are you calling this? Are you calling it Viper? Or are you calling it Cobra? Or are you calling it Lion?
I'm going to call it the Joker because he's going to be laughing every time he puts your quarterback on the ground. And that's going to be Harold Perkins from the Louisiana State University. The Joker role in this defense is, for lack of a better term, the biggest pain in the ass for opposing offenses. And I believe Harold Perkins in this role would thrive because it's all about applying pressure in forcing offenses to identify you before every snap. The Joker's this hybrid linebacker, edge defender that can basically rush the passer from literally anywhere on the field, but also drop into space, defend against the pass as a flat or a hook defender. But this guy makes his money because they have a dominant pass rush skill set in the body and athleticism of a prototypical stand-up linebacker. I mean, Perkins is 6'1", 220, but ran a 4.4 laser coming out of high school. And this is a guy that totaled nearly 150 tackles and 13 sacks in his 2 seasons at LSU. So if he's not protected from correctly, this is a guy that's going to end up wreaking havoc for an opposing offense for all 4 quarters, my friend.
He played for one of the worst defenses ever last year because they didn't know how to use him.
Correct.
But the problem is,
who does? This guy.
You? Well, when he lines up on the line of scrimmage, he's scary as hell. But you're playing a 3-3-5. You're not you're bringing him down occasionally, but I'm going to know. And I already got one really good offensive tackle. Do I take another really good offensive tackle right now? Do I do that? Do I take an edge rusher? Do I go for some interior pressure? I am going to go into the middle of my defense.
Oh, no.
But this is not a guy who can just play in the middle. This is a man who, at well over 300 pounds, can come off the edge.
Okay, before you start.
And does.
There's 2 options here. And if you pick one, you're screwing me completely.
So good. Ahead. Well, I think I am screwing you. Because this is a person who, in terms of versatility of front, like if you want to shift between even and odd fronts. Now, Grant, we're just picking our starters. Obviously, we're going to have sub packages, but this guy allows you to mask your real front because he can do so many things. Kentucky defensive tackle Dion Walker.
Andy.
Love it.
Andy.
Let's go.
Man, that hurts me so violently. It makes me sad.
Dion, we had him on the show last year. We love Dion Walker so much. I will tell you, I covered a game involving Kentucky a couple of years ago when he was a freshman. He's 6'6", 348 pounds. He can play any spot on the defensive line. You can line him up at nose. You can line him up at 3 technique. You can line him up at 4-eye or 5 technique in an odd front. You can line him up at 9. You can line him up outside the tight end if you want to, and he will be just fine. But covered a game. One of the offensive players from the other team said, "We'd love to have you here next year." And I'm sure Kentucky's collective just puckered up, but they're like, "Nope, we're keeping him. This guy's amazing." Dion Walker is one of my favorite players in the whole country.
Yeah. Got to be honest, that was a bit of a gut punch. I'm a little upset there. I think that was maybe my next pick, but I am going to stay along the defensive line, Andy.
Okay.
I'm going to take a player that some people, I see a lot of James Pierce, number 1. I see that. I've seen this guy's name floated around a couple times too. And now this is one that I'm extremely excited about because the way this defense operates, it allows versatile defensive linemen to use every move in their arsenal. You can use every tool in the bag, however you want to phrase it. But you could argue that the guy with the most tools in the bag is Mykel Williams out of Georgia.
Yeah.
And he's going to be my starting defensive end. 6'5", 270. He has quite literally lined up in every technique along the defensive front for Georgia throughout his career. He's got tremendous physical and athletic tools for the position.
I'll take my guy at 350 that I can put at nose.
Sure.
But
yeah, I mean,
you go ahead.
Cool.
No, but Mykel Williams actually may be the number 1 pick in the draft next year.
He could be.
Yeah.
According to Dane Brugler, that is in fact the case. And, he's got such dominant hand usage. He can win with power. He can win with speed. He can kick inside, stuff the run. He can stand up, rush off the edge. And hell, he can even drop into coverage if you need him to. There's a reason he was the number 1 defensive player in the country by On3 when he was coming out of high school. And those reasons will be on full display in this defense as my starting defensive end.
So the amateur GMs are screaming at us right now.
No way.
Because we've ignored a position that is absolutely critical.
Sure.
Now you've taken 1 DB, but you took a safety.
I did.
Neither one of us has taken a corner yet.
Mm.
We've already taken what we think are the two most dynamic receivers in the country.
Sure.
Somebody's got to stop these guys.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to cover these guys. What if I told you there was a guy that is guaranteed to be able to cover these guys? Also, if you wanted to, he could be your wide receiver too.
Please do it. Perfect. Do it. Go ahead, Andy. Take him.
Travis Hunter from Colorado. Let's go.
Perfect. Thank you so much for doing that. I'm so
Oh,
happy.
wow. Okay.
Go ahead.
You're happy about this?
Go ahead and explain it for me, Andy. Read me the tape on Travis here. Go ahead.
I listen. I gotta shut down boundary corner. Happy to have him line up against anybody. Now, I'm not going to play him every snap at receiver on offense because I think that probably hurts what he can do as a cornerback, probably wears him out. Don't need him playing 110 snaps a game. But I am going to throw him in there occasionally on offense. I am going to maybe have him return some kicks. I feel pretty good about that. And listen, we've said all we say about Dion on the show. We've said, we don't think Colorado is going to be a whole lot better than they were last year. But Travis Hunter is legit. And I will take Travis Hunter all day, every day.
Yeah. I mean, he's a great player. He's a great player. But you know what, Andy? And it's good. I'm glad you went Travis Hunter. I'm so excited. Because if you hurt my heart twice, I was going to be really upset. But fortunately, you didn't, because you left CB1 on the board, and that is Will Johnson from Michigan. So, we got the center fielder locked up, right? No issues. But we got to have somebody on the outside to help him out, which is why I'm taking arguably the top corner in college football in Will Johnson right here. I mean, the guy essentially takes away an entire side of the field by himself wherever he goes. Targeted 44 times last year, secured more interceptions than he had allowed touchdowns. He is a walking blanket with Caleb Downs patrolling the middle of the field. With this guy on the outside, I genuinely don't know how your how your offense is going to complete a pass.
Oh, see, we don't have to complete passes, Cody, because we're going to run the ball down your freaking throat because you still haven't taken an offensive tackle.
Yeah.
So now I'm going to take Kelvin Banks.
Yeah, I don't love that one.
Yeah, that was after I took Will Campbell, that was the number one tackle on your board.
Yeah.
And you were like, well, that's okay. I still have Kelvin Banks, and I'm going to make Andy take Emory Jones, the LSU right tackle, and just have those. But no. If you're going to leave Kelvin Banks hanging out there for me, I will take him. Another plug and play the moment he walked on campus, and he's only gotten better. He's a freak athlete. Just his body control is amazing. He's powerful. He'll help you in the run game, but he can protect the passer. And the thing is, I need to protect my quarterback. We are going to take vertical shots. We've got to give him time. We cannot have, the run game action is going to freeze the defense somewhat, but we get in third and long, what's coming too. But the thing is, Kelvin Banks can protect, but he can also move people in the run game. And I'm telling you, love it. I am so happy that this, it's interesting. So our producer River, we have a Google Doc where we've got our draft boards and who's getting, so he's putting in green who we've taken and in purple who we've missed out on, who the other person has taken. I've only got one purple on my board. So,
well, that's brutal. That hurts my heart a little bit, but we're going to be okay because like you said, right? I mean, your goal is to run the football. I get it. That's great. We're going to go ahead and take a guy, not a traditional nose tackle here, but that's the beauty of the 3-3-5 front, right? You can put players up there that don't necessarily fit your traditional big, hefty nose tackle, right? Like I mentioned at the top of the show, we're not going to be seeing many combos along the defensive front due to our technique and gap discipline built into the scheme. Therefore, I could take a more nimble, athletic disruptor as my nose tackle, someone that's arguably the top defensive tackle in the sport, and that's going to be Mason Graham. And
I'm okay with that. I think it's a wonderful pick.
Okay.
Mason Graham is a fine defensive lineman. Seems like a really nice guy. I'm good with it. Please tell the people about Mason Graham.
Well, he's just beyond advanced with his hand usage, right? And his ability to shed blocks. He plays with his hair on fire on every single snap. He's someone that can rush the passer from the interior, but also sink his weight, hold the point of attack in the run game. He is a complete player that we can fortunately utilize in this position thanks to our scheme of defensive philosophy. Mason Graham, I might have the 2 first defensive linemen going off the board in the draft here soon. So I'm going to have them sitting right next to each other.
Or I might. Because
that's the beauty of it.
Mason Graham, while wonderful, isn't the only good defensive tackle at Michigan. And guess what? I've already taken one defensive tackle who's about 350 pounds, but moves like someone who weighs 100 pounds less.
Put 2 of them in there. Why not?
Kenneth Grant is 348 pounds. And if you didn't see him run down Katron Allen in the Penn State game last year, go look up that clip.
Strong.
Kenneth Grant is a force of nature. As he is advanced as his teammate Mason Graham in terms of hand usage, no. Can he get interior pressure with sheer power and speed? Absolutely. And he is working on, like when we had him on the show, he was talking about all the balance stuff he's doing that the Michigan strength staff has worked with him on. Like, this is a guy who is an athlete at 350 pounds. And I feel like they don't move him around like Kentucky moves Deion Walker around, but I do feel like there's some, like, I have no problem going between nose and 3 with him. And again, if I want to switch it, like if I want him to 2 gap as a true nose and an odd front, I would feel comfortable with that. I feel like he's strong enough to do that. Or I could take my 360 pound guy and do that. John,
that's pretty
in
good.
The chat says if Andy doesn't take his boy Kenneth Grant for DT2, I'll be disappointed. But there you go.
Wish fulfilled. Congratulations.
That is
also.
I'm so happy.
We've
my
checked
D-line is nasty.
How many Michigan guys have we checked off so far at this point? Is that 3?
That's 3. That is 3. I think they made. So when I was going through the board and trying to guess who you're going to pick, Michigan, Ohio State, and Georgia were the ones that I felt like were going to be the leaders in terms of players taken. And it was, I didn't really see anybody else that was close.
Yeah. You know, it's funny that you say that because there was a team, I think I happen to have 2 players from this university. And specifically at the wide receiver position, we're going West Coast here, Andy, and we're going to the state of Arizona. Because not only do I have wide receiver 1 on my team, I have wide receiver 2. And we got Tetairoa McMillan is going to be playing out wide for us at our X. And he is an absolute tank on the outside, right? 6'5", 215 pounds, and he is a jump ball demon. Second in the FBS last season in contested catches with 17 behind some guy named Roma Dunze. I think he just went top 10 in the draft last week, if I'm not mistaken. And speaking of the draft, some folks might say that Tetairoa might actually be the best prospect coming out next year. You know, he's got I think it's safe to say he's a special talent, right? Combination of size, speed, ball skills. He's the textbook example of a dominant X receiver for my ultimate team. And he's going to complement Luther Burden perfectly on the other side of the field.
Now I feel like I gotta get another receiver now.
You gotta play defense now. Interesting.
Well, that was my next pick. You grabbed the guy I was about to take with my next pick. So this is now you're gonna say I'm reaching again.
Oh man,
because I took a true freshman.
Okay.
As my wide receiver 1.
Sure.
I'm gonna take another true freshman.
Oh, dude.
I'm going for the upside here, the potential ceiling here.
Boom bust. Woo, baby. Go ahead.
Cam Coleman.
Freakazoid.
Auburn freshman. This guy, everything I said about Jeremiah Smith. Now, they're different receivers, but
Right.
this guy could be the biggest impact receiver in the class of 2024. There's not been a receiver prospect like this at Auburn in a long, long time. Like,
No question.
I'm old and I don't remember one like this at Auburn. So now, look, I don't know how effectively Peyton Thorne's going to get him the ball,
right?
But I know in my offense that he's going to be fine. He's going to be awesome. So I am just look, I'm over the moon with the potential of my receiving core. I knew that River was going to run this B-roll of this one-handed catch at one of the all-star practices.
I was standing right there. I saw it with my own eyeballs. Like, he is that guy. The problem is, Andy, that cat's not even 18 years old yet. He's a young pup. He's got so much room and so much time to develop. I got two guys that are certified bona fide dudes out wide. You got some puppies out there. So
that's all right. Because again, we're running the ball down your throat. And I know what you're saying. Andy, you haven't even taken a running back yet. And I'm not going to yet because I feel very confident in what I can get at the running back position. I'm sorry. It is your turn. I almost stole a pick. I almost snake drafted this thing.
Well, I like it because maybe you could have given me a little bit of a hint. So I'm not mad at that. But I'm going to go ahead and solidify. I'm going to add a piece to the offensive line. Okay, Andy. And I hear what you're thinking. You're probably going to be like, oh, yeah, so he's going to finally grab a tackle. No. We're going interior. We're going with the head coach of the offensive line. We're picking center. We're going Parker Brailsford. Recent Washington transfer to the University of Alabama. Andy, I've talked about building up the middle so much on defense that I think I got to start doing it on the offensive side of the ball. And it's one of those things where you can't sniff a center that touches the talent level of Brailsford at this point. He's the tip of the spear for the Joe Moore Award, a winning offensive line unit last year for Washington. And he's going to have another dominant season this year at Alabama. There's a reason they got him in the portal. And that's because they know he is the best center in America, adding to the offensive line.
I think that is an excellent choice.
Thank you, sir.
Mostly because I had another center on my board, but Parker Brailsford was the second one if you picked the guy I had. So my guy is a little bit more interesting, and obviously you're not going to pick another center, so I can wait as long as I want on him, and we can make him a little bit of a surprise later in the draft.
Fair enough.
I'm going to go with a guy. You went safety right off the bat, and I'm realizing I do need to make sure I take this guy. Since you have Caleb Downs, I need to take this guy so you don't have both of these guys, because that would be a complete failure on my part. You know exactly who I'm talking about. George's Malachi Starks.
Yeah, that wasn't the game plan.
Yeah. A lot of the things you said about Caleb Downs apply to Malachi Starks. This is a very versatile safety, ball hawk, great ball skills, just a defensive playmaker, I think is the terminology you would use for him. And we like his coverage skills. I don't have a problem if he gets matched up against tight end. Like, I really feel like he gives me a lot of positional versatility here. Maybe not as much as Caleb Downs would, but it's close. And I think, like an NFL team would agree with me. Like, if they can't get Caleb Downs, they're gonna be really happy if they get Malachi Starks. No
question. I mean, absolutely no question. And, you're going to need him, especially for the receivers that I have. So you're going to need him. You're going to need somebody over the top that can hang with my guys. And like you mentioned, you're going to run the rock. So I got to get my third piece of the puzzle here along the defensive line. But I love the way things are coming together at this point, right? I got a big time nose tackle, takes away the attention of my defensive end, right? And Mykel Williams. I have my eye in the sky and Caleb Downs patrolling the secondary. I got my chess piece and Harold Perkins hovering around the second level of the defense, but I need someone who can help take some eyes away from him as well. And I'm going to be taking the most sought after defensive end, probably this entire transfer portal cycle. And that's going to be Nick Scourton, who is now at Texas A&M as my second defensive end. That's right.
So Nick Williams was at Purdue. Yep.
Correct.
Coming home because he's from Bryan.
From
He's
Bryan.
from Bryan, Texas.
Right. Yes. And he played off-ball linebacker for that high school. He was 6'4", 240 pounds, added 30, 35 pounds at the college level. He's 6'4", 280 now. He can truly do it all from the defensive end position. He can shock blockers with his power at the point of attack. He's a magician when it comes to rushing the passer. The athleticism combined with his size and power is a perfect fit as a
Do you get the sense, Cody, that Mike Elko, when he was the DC and Nick was in high school, that Mike Elko might have lost an argument at a certain point?
I want to say I was there, Andy, so I can possibly confirm that. That's one you just don't really let get away.
Yeah.
So I'm choosing to not have that happen to me for another time. I'm going to go ahead and take them now.
Very good. Very good. So I also need to solidify my edge. And I'm so happy.
Oh, I know where you're going. Mm-hmm.
This is a guy that we had a similar discussion with Harold Perkins.
Right.
And we've had that discussion with this guy. And so he's got a new defensive coordinator this year. And one of the things they said right off the bat is, no, we're going to let him do the thing he does really well. And I am not an NFL GM. Like, I'm not drafting this for an NFL team. I'm drafting this to be the best college team. I think this guy's going to be a dynamite NFL player too.
Sure.
But Abdul Carter, Penn State. Like, Tom Allen comes in as the DC at Penn State. And he's like, we're going to have Abdul Carter rushing off the edge. Like, no more of this moving him around stuff. Like, he's going to be on the edge. You're going to have to deal with him. He wears number 11. Some guy who played at Penn State who rushes the quarterback used to wear number 11. There are favorable comparisons between the two. James Franklin told us on the show last year that Abdul Carter may be even a little more twitched up than Micah Parsons, which is I find very difficult to believe.
Yeah, that's some praise.
I'll take it. If it's true, I will happily take it on this team, because this is a guy, like, when they put him on the edge, he's a problem every single time. I remember watching him against Michigan last year, and it felt like, and Michigan was having some struggles in that game, and that's why they ran the ball so many times in the second half of that game. They were struggling to protect. They had an injury to Ladarius Henderson, so they were shuffling people around. But like, when Abdul Carter lined up on the edge, everything, like, you could see everybody just kind of pucker on the offensive line, because it's like, oh no, like, do we have somebody on that side who can help out, or is the quarterback just gonna have to bail on this play? Like, that's what I want people thinking when they line up against this dude.
Fair enough. And I mean, we're feeling it right now. We don't have any tackles currently, so we're still in a little bit of a pickle.
Still some really good ones out there, though.
Exactly. So I can wait a little bit on that. I'm assuming you're not going to take another tackle, so we got time.
and just shove him into guard.
Who knows?
Like, maybe like the NFL
just
teams
them all
do.
Inside, screw it. Yeah, just see what happens. But I'm going to go ahead and solidify the secondary here. I'm going to form the most beautiful triangle possible here in the secondary. And I'm going to go corner number 2 here. And I love what we have in the secondary at this point, right? And I'm going to love it even more with the addition of Benjamin Morrison from Notre Dame as my CB2. This is a guy, it sounds like you're familiar. This is a guy that put the best receiver in college football last year in an absolute blender. In 2 seasons, playing against Marvin Harrison Jr., Morrison was thrown at 7 times. He had 3 PBUs and only gave up 2 catches to Marvin Harrison Jr. This defense is going to be phenomenal in the back half, with Caleb Downs patrolling the middle of the field, cornerback 1 and Will Johnson, and Morrison on the outside. I genuinely do not think you'll have complete a pass, which I understand. You're running the ball. You're going to have to throw it at some point, and it's going to be a whoopsie. He's a good player. Good player.
Well, we both have 5 DB spots on the field, so I got to be careful and make sure I'm not going to lose everybody I want. So I'm going to go Denzel Burke from Ohio State to solidify my corner spot. I can play him at nickel if I want, but there's another guy that's on the board now that I've lost Benjamin Morrison that I might move to nickel in this case. But I'm happy with Denzel Burke. He is back for another year. Does not need to be back in college football, by the way. Denzel Burke could very easily be in the NFL right now, but he's part of that group of Ohio State defenders that decided to come back for one more run. And, you know, I like the length. I like the speed. I'm very happy here. I'm hurt. I had Benjamin Morrison right there. I was going to grab him. And I'm like, Denzel Burke's my nickel. But that's okay. That's okay. We can fix that. We've got some other options there.
It's strong, man. I mean, Denzel Burke's a great player. He would have been potentially the corner I took as well. He's such a good zone corner, and that's the name of the game in this 3-3-5, especially on the outside. So totally understand that there. So what I'm going to do is kick it back to the offense. And everyone, I'm sure, is saying, like, finally, he's going to take a tackle. Nope, we're not. We're going tight end. In fact, we're taking the next Michigan player off the board. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, the tight end position has to be able to do it all for us. And that's why I'm taking the most complete tight end option in Colston Loveland at Michigan. He's a total athletic freak. 6'5", 250, three-sport athlete coming out of the state of Idaho. He ran the 100-meter. He ran the 4x1. He did the high jump. He threw shot put, and he threw discus, and the kid could yam it on the hardwood. And you see all of those skills translate for him on the football field. Not to mention, he's only given up 2 pressures in pass protection the last 2 seasons as a blocking inline wide tight end. He can do everything we would possibly ask him to do in this offense, and he's going to slide in seamlessly into this scheme. Just to recap here, Andy, my skill guys are Ollie Gordon, Tetairoa McMillan, Luther Burden, and Colston Loveland. Do you have an answer for any of those guys?
Yeah, I'm going to block some more. I'm going to open holes some more because now we're getting some guards.
I love it.
The question is, who am I going to get first? Because I know I think both these guys might be on your board that I want.
Sure.
So I'm going to go with the dude that I know can move people in the run game, that's been doing it for years. And he's also the best podcaster on this list. If you've never listened to the Real Talk podcast,
absolutely,
what are you even doing? Tate Ratledge, Georgia guard, host of the Real Talk. He's with an Australian punter this year, which is not even fair. He's been doing it with D lineman. He did it with Zion Logue last year. He did it with Rylan Godey, who was a tight end the year before that. But on the field, Tate Ratledge is just nails. He has been the most reliable offensive lineman Georgia's had the last few years, and he's just going to bulldoze people in the run game. And I am so happy to have him on my team, and our player podcast is going to be amazing.
No question. The clicks will be going through the roof. And, you know, the thing I like about your pick, it does sort of force my hand, right? I will admit, it does force my hand a little bit here. You took the guy that, in my opinion, is the best pass protector along the interior. Give me the nasty. Give me the guy that's a road grader. Give me Tyler Booker.
This is my other guy. I knew
Give
it.
me Tyler Booker from Alabama. I mean, like I said, you know, the goal with this offense too is to still run the football. And we're going to do that behind one of the best run blockers in the league as an interior lineman from Alabama. If he latches on, it's game over. He's a consistent barrier of human beings in the run game, and he's actually one of the cleaner pass protectors in the SEC. So I truly do feel like he's someone that excels in both the run and passing game, which is perfect for our offense. But if we need to run behind somebody, we're going to go right behind Tyler Booker and Parker Brailsford, and we're going to move the chains.
I love that we have a run on guards before we take our quarterbacks, but that's just because neither of us is taking the same quarterback, and we know that.
Correct.
So
yeah, no question. That's
I'm going to continue the run on guards.
Oh my goodness.
We're going because I want my own. I want a road grader at the other guard spot, and so I'm going to choose. I'm going to go to Columbus and get Donovan Jackson from Ohio State.
Yeah, that is.
He will be opening holes for Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins this year. And this is a 320-pound dude who will just mash you up front. Yeah, he'll be perfect in this offense. But the thing is, like, all of the guys I've taken, I feel like are very athletic. And so I have no problem. Like if I'm doing some like a GT counter, like I have no problem going to either side with the guard and the tackle pulling.
Yeah,
I'm happy with this.
Smart. I like it. It's a good choice. I respect it. You know what? I'm going to keep the offensive line train rolling. Andy, are you good with that? I'm going to keep it going because I need a tackle. And like I mentioned previously, and I believe you threw this name out there earlier, we're running the football. That's what we're going to do. There's a world, though, Andy, in which the first LSU Tiger off the board, though, in the 2025 NFL draft, it's not Will Campbell. It's not Harold Perkins. Because it might be Baton Rouge's very own Emory Jones.
That's very true.
With his nastiness in the run game and his footwork at 330 plus pounds, he's someone that's an enforcer along the offensive line. He's improved so much as a pass protector as well. Starting as a freshman, he had some growing pains, but I think he's going to turn into an even better pro than he is a college player. But he's going to see his stock skyrocket this year. And if he's playing at Cody Bellaire University, he's paired up right next to Tyler Booker. We are going to run on the left side of this line all day long. And we feel good.
It is pretty nasty when you have Ollie Gordon running behind that.
Right.
That is
and you can't stack
pretty
the
amazing.
box on us, Andy. What are you going to do? Leave Tetairoa and Luther Burden singled up?
So here's my question. We got to finish out the secondary.
Yeah.
None of us, you took Harold Perkins.
Right.
None of us has taken a more traditional linebacker.
Correct.
Yet. So I'm not sure. Yeah. But I will. I don't even know if this guy's on your board. I need him for the defense I'm running. I just need a captain of the defense, big burly dude that can play inside linebacker because I just there's only gonna be one guy like that in my defense, and I cannot not have him. So I'm gonna take Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma to be that guy that my defense just revolves around.
I like it. That's a true old school bringing down ball carriers type of guy, man. Like that's
I'll be honest. I was looking at weights as I was going through this. There were a few options. I like this person has to be 240 or heavier. Like it's
right.
I just need that guy.
Yep, totally get it. And so I hear you on that front. I don't want to get scooped up here on a linebacker that I like. So I'm a little worried. I was a little worried, right? When you went Danny, I felt good. I felt much better. I got some relief. We exhaled a little bit.
Now I'm nervous.
I'm going to take the guy that some thought would declare for the draft last year.
Okay, this is
but decided to come back and prove that he deserves to be in the linebacker one conversation. And that's Clemson's Barrett Carter. This is a guy that has some serious range and covers grass in a hurry, right? The thing I like most about him, though, especially in this 3-3-5 defense, is that Harold Perkins isn't the only linebacker that has to rush the passer. I can use him as a pass rusher. And he's one of the few pass rushers that had, according to PFF, over an 80 grade in run defense and in pass rush success, which is perfect for what we're going to ask of him in this defense as our starting will linebacker. Perfect for us.
So remember, I only got 2 linebackers.
True.
So it would be helpful if I could have a big linebacker who can also play off ball, who can also rush the passer. And I thought that's where you might go, and I'm so glad you didn't. And I'm going to go ahead and take him now so I don't lose him. Anthony Hill of Texas.
It's a great choice.
Who has worked at Mike linebacker, but played off ball, and you saw what he could do when they brought him down to the line of scrimmage to rush the passer last year. That was that one, because I didn't know if I'd be able to get everything I wanted. When you took Harold Perkins so soon, I had Harold Perkins out there as a flyer if you let him drop a little bit.
Sure.
But with him not available, I needed somebody who kind of fit this mold. With Anthony Hill, I'm actually more comfortable with him playing that role at linebacker, but I love that I can bring him down if I need to and rush the pass.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that makes a ton of sense. We both picked the same type of guy. So that completely checks out. I agree with that thought process. Let's go ahead. Let me maneuver around here. I'm trying to see which guy makes the most sense. And I'm doing it.
Figure out who we may be in the mold of everybody left on the board is somebody that only the other guy wants.
Right. Yeah.
Because of scheme.
That's definitely possible. So what I'm going to do here, let me maneuver where I'm at here. So what I'm going to do here, Andy, is I'm just going to go ahead and complete that receiver trio.
Okay.
How does that sound?
Sounds good. I only have 2 receiver spots. I'm in 21 personnel. So
fair enough. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use this slot, no pun intended, for our F position. And that's going to go to none other than Ohio State's Emeka Egbuka. And yes, I know Jeremiah Smith's there. Marvin Harrison was the number 1 guy for them last year. That's all fine and good.
It's Ohio State. There's always money in that banana stand.
This is a guy, phenomenal reference. This is a guy that knows his role and he owns it. There's not a better receiving option in the intermediate and underneath levels of the field in college football than Emeka Egbuka. And he has elite route running ability paired with the phenomenal body control and strong hands. He's going to be such an excellent complement to this passing game, especially on the inside, because I'll have Luther on the outside. I have Tetairo on the outside. He's going to be a consistent chain mover for us in this offense.
So John in the chat says Andy needs to pick another true freshman for his wide receiver 3. My wide receiver 3 is Travis Hunter, buddy. Like, I'm in 21 personnel. I'm starting good. 2 backs and a tight end. I only have 2 receivers on the field, so I've already got those guys. All right.
He's good.
I am going to work on my secondary again. I need another safety. This is one that I imagine he's somewhere on your board as well. Xavier Watts from Notre Dame,
nice.
All-American last year. Definitely a guy who could be in the NFL right now. Wanted to run it back more time. So we'll take Xavier. And I'm feeling pretty good. I got one more secondary spot to fill. I realize that I have not touched my quarterback and running backs, but I feel okay about that too.
Right. I'm right there with you. I feel good about the guys that I have left on the board.
I'm excited to find out who your quarterback is.
I know, me too. I'm actually really nervous. But you've chosen Xavier. And when you said Xavier, I got a little nervous because I'm going to take the other Xavier at Iowa. In Xavier Nwankpa. Both non-rover safety positions in this defense, they're asked to do a lot of the same things. So they need to have range. They have to have the ability to play man and in zone coverage as well as being a strong tackler. And I think we take Xavier Nwankpa out of Iowa. He's got awesome range, very productive player. I love the fluidity. I love the burst. He's an effective tackler as well. This is somebody that I can trust to take away the deep half of the field and still feel very comfortable being a force in the run game. I really like what we have there. Well,
now we've got to run on Iowa DBs because I'm taking Sebastian Castro as my nickel.
Very nice. I like. That's a great call. It's a great call.
This is a guy who can. I think he could play. He could play pretty much anywhere in the secondary. I feel very good about him. Very smart, and he's gonna be able to lock down a variety of different kind of receivers. If you match him up at the tight end, you're feeling okay there too. So sure. I am happy with this.
I like it. I mean, it's strong. It's strong, and I feel good about it. Let me go ahead and get my last pick here on this, or excuse me, how many defensive? I have 2 guys left on defense.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go ahead and get that locked in here with another Iowa linebacker.
We got three in a row from Iowa
player. I'm taking Jay Higgins.
Yeah.
And this guy is a true Mike. He does everything you could ask for out of a Mike linebacker. He can come downhill, stop the run. He can take on blocks. He can drop into coverage. He played more defensive snaps than any defensive player in the FBS last year. The only thing this guy's asked not to do is rush the passer. But that's why we took Barrett Carter, because we're not going to ask him to do that. We need somebody that can get a hat on a hat, bring down ball carriers, and I think our pairing at linebacker is perfection. Feel really good about it.
I love it. So Now I've got to fill out my offense here. I've got my full defense. I got 4 spots left on offense. I don't think we're going to have a lot of overlap here, but
I don't think so either.
You took a running back very early. Ollie Gordon was somebody I really wanted. He's a violent runner. I thought he would be great in this offense, but I want backs that are true home run threats, but also can run between the tackles, because with those triple option principles, somebody's got to be the dive guy. Now, it's not the traditional dive. It's not Corey Schlesinger coming through at 250 pounds. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. This also needs to be somebody who would be RB1 in another kind of scheme. So I'm going with Travion Henderson. I just, if he's the first guy through with those monsters I have blocking for him, there's a very good chance he's taking it to the house. And if you have to worry about him with the guy who's going to be playing quarterback for me and the other guy who's going to be playing running back for me, you're going to be scared shitless. Let's be perfectly honest. Like, you're just not going to know what to do with yourself. And then that's when we're going to throw over the top. So Travion Henderson for me right there.
I like it. And speaking of offensive side of the ball, I have the left side of my line anchored, down packed, good to go. I got to get a right tackle. And I'm going to go to the West Coast, and I'm going to take the guy out of Oregon, Josh Connerly.
There you go.
And I
so you're flipping Emory Jones and Josh Connerly. Why don't you just play Josh at the left and Emory at the right?
I could do that, because I could do the same thing with Tyler Booker. I could move him to right guard. It's whatever the preference is. We feel good about it. Emory can do both. Josh can do both. But what I'm going to, the thing I love so much about Josh is the way his feet move, right? He's super light. He's got great footwork, does such an awesome job of understanding leverage and using angles to his advantage in pass pro. He's got such a strong punch and is a people mover in the run game. I think he's one of the more balanced tackles in the country. And I think he's a perfect fit at tackle for us, especially in this offense, since we are heavy run, but we do need to protect our quarterback and give him time for those play action passes. Feel good about Josh.
All right, it's time to take my quarterback. Remember, I'm running the go-go gadget offense. There's really not much gadget to it. I'm stealing the go-go offense from UNLV and a lot of principles that you see in Liberty's offense. So you need a quarterback who can throw a pretty deep ball, but who also is a run threat. I chose the quarterback who is the ultimate run threat among quarterbacks this year. There's a reason he was a 5-star recruit in the class of 2023.
Ooh.
We have not seen a quarterback who has a good arm, who has an NFL caliber arm, who is this fast in college football since, dare I say, do I even mention the name?
No.
Lamar Jackson.
Don't do that to him.
I'm ready to do that to him. I am fully on board, and I think he and his glorious mane of hair can handle all of this.
I respect the game. I respect it completely. Obviously, respect it.
Avery Johnson.
Freak.
Total Kansas State is my quarterback. He's going to run for 1,200 yards. He's going to throw for 4,000 yards. We are going to destroy everyone with this offense.
I respect the flow. I mean, how can you not? You know what I mean? Like, how can you not? And, I picked Josh Connerly, last pick at right tackle. I'm going to go ahead and just solidify that offensive line. I'm going to go ahead and take Michael Ford out of Kansas. And this is a guy, not necessarily a household name, right? Not a lot of people got University of Kansas notifications on. So this is a guy in Michael Ford that's kind of played all over the board for Kansas, is taking reps at right tackle, is taking reps at right guard, he's taking a couple reps at center, but he's going to stay at right guard for me. This is the definition of a balanced player, according to PFF. This is a guy that ranked in the top 20 in both run blocking and pass blocking. That is exactly what we need. So we have our road graders on the left side, and we have our elite pass protectors on the right side. You're going to have to scheme us up pretty strongly here, Andy. I get worried that we're going to bully you in the run game, and we're still going to be able to throw it over the top of you. But, we'll see how it plays out. Go ahead and finish your. You got 2 picks left, Andy? 3?
We have 3. I have a back,
3.
a tight end, and a center that I need to fill.
Nice.
For my center, I'm choosing a guy who has not yet started a game in college.
Bold.
But who also may be a very high draft pick next year. He's a 4th-year college player. He's been playing. He just has not been starting. And that is Jared Wilson at Georgia, who is replacing Cedric Van Pran, who Jared Wilson can outrun DBs, and he's a center.
Not normal.
Now, granted, he was behind a really good player. That's the only reason he wasn't starting. But he's mature. He's patient. He's a freak athlete. The NFL people are already excited about him, and he has not started a game yet. So I cannot wait to see what Jared Wilson does at Georgia.
Yeah, I like that one. That's a strong pick. I remember when Cedric was coming out of Warren Easton and at LSU, we let that one slide. So that was a mistake. And I'm sure his replacement is going to be a dog as well. No pun intended there. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to round up our defensive side of the ball. I'm going to save the quarterback for last here, Andy.
All right.
We're going to go final safety spot. Dylan Thieneman from Purdue.
Yes.
Again,
he was on my board as well.
Non-rover safety, right? They're going to be asked to do a lot of the same things. Strong tackler, man, and zone coverage. Dylan was one of the most productive safeties in all of college football last year. Again,
as a true
very
freshman.
Fluid. Absolutely. So fluid, great burst, very instinctive. He knows when to trigger, so fast closing to the football. If Nwankpa is going to get me all the picks, the enemy's going to blow up the most receivers underneath. That's what's going to happen. So having that fire and ice at the safety position feels really good. And 2 Big Ten guys duking it out back there. Excuse me, 3 technically with the safeties. All 3 of my safeties are Big Ten guys.
So I picked Travion Henderson, and I think he's going to be it's interesting because it's not like we're not running the triple I. So it's not like there's a fullback in front of the tailback kind of thing, defined roles. I want 2 guys who I feel comfortable with, can run between the tackles and be the home run threat if they can get some space.
Sure.
So I'm going with Jay Knott from Cal as my next back.
Dynamic.
This is a guy who, if he gets some grass in front of him, gone. But he's 6 feet tall. Like it's weird. He's a big, 6 foot 210 is a different dimension, kind of a Fred Taylor looking dude.
Yeah.
And
right.
So that's I'm very excited about my backs because whichever one of the Ott is the guy I imagine in most cases is the pitch man in that triple option. And so you have Avery Johnson and that defensive end or whoever they're, linebacker, if it's a linebacker that we'd be playing when we play in your team, whoever crashes down on him, he's pitching out to Ott. God bless whatever safety or corner has to try to tackle him out there.
Yeah. I mean, he's a load, but he can really go. I really like that choice, especially as the pitch guy. I think that's really smart. You're a smart guy, Andy. That's very smart. I'm going to wrap this thing up on my team. We saved quarterback for last. I figured we didn't have the same guy. Our offenses were completely different. But, our offense is designed in which the quarterback can be the facilitator.
Mm-hmm.
Get the ball out. Don't turn the ball over. Make the necessary runs. Right, sure. The name of the game is to keep the ball and make good decisions. And there is no better QB in the game at doing that than Dylan Gabriel, who's at Oregon now.
Dylan Gabriel, by the way, would have been awesome in my offense too. This is a man who was once committed to Army.
Right. He's one of the most experienced signal callers in the country with 50 total games played. He's someone that has played with them in multiple offenses with all sorts of supporting casts and has still been one of the most productive QBs in the country. Plus, the kicker to all this, he's one of the lowest turnover-worthy play rates in all of college football. He doesn't put the team in harm's way. If there's any QB who can manage a game and still deliver without turning the ball over, it's Dylan Gabriel.
That is a tremendous pick. And this is where I remind everybody, this is a college football draft. We are creating college football teams. If this was an NFL draft, I don't know that either one of us takes the quarterback we take.
Right.
Because
completely agree.
We're looking for specific traits. And as Stetson Bennett showed us, you can be a really good college QB. And if the talent is around you, you can be you can have a really dominant team. You don't necessarily have to have an NFL first rounder. Now, I would argue that if Avery Johnson lives up to everything he's supposed to be, he could be an NFL first rounder.
No question.
Like Dylan Gabriel's probably not going to be. But as a college quarterback, he's spectacular and he's perfect for what you want. And in fact, we're going to see it because remember, Dylan Gabriel has been in the veer and shoot at UCF and at Oklahoma. He moves into a little more air raid based offense now that Will Stein runs at Oregon. So
very excited.
That'll be very interesting. My last pick is another guy that I'm not sure is a household name, but if he does what his new team thinks he's going to do, we'll know him very quickly. That is Benjamin Yurosek, tight end from Georgia. He transferred from Stanford. And essentially they said, who in college football has been the closest thing to Brock Bowers? And that is this guy. So he's 6'4", 240, extremely fast. You're happy to hand him the ball in an end around, but you also can move him around in the pass game. He was hurt a little bit of last year, so you haven't necessarily gotten to see him at full capacity. Also, he's not been surrounded by the kind of talent he'll be surrounded by at Georgia, but they're very excited about what he can be. And nobody's going to replace Brock Bowers. He was special. That person doesn't come along very often. But in my offense, where I know that tight end needs to be a mismatch nightmare, needs to be capable of moving around. And this guy's a willing blocker as well. So I'm happy with that. But I need to be able to move him around and confuse defenses. This is the ultimate in terms of who I can put in different places to really mess with a defensive coordinator.
No question. Man, Andy, I mean, just eyeballing these rosters, I feel like we went two completely different directions, but I love it. Like, I absolutely
a game between these two teams would be so much fun.
100%. Like, I was worried that when I clicked back over to this, I was going to be like, oh, I'm smoked. Or like vice versa, right?
No, I don't know who wins this game. Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I love it. And I think, part of the reason we do this exercise now on May 1st is, we want to get everybody's juices flowing for college football season. We want to talk about the actual sport instead of talking about, how it's going to be organized and how the players are going to get paid and all that stuff. But more than anything else is to highlight how good and how deep it is this season. Like if we'd had 3 or 4 more people doing this exercise, if we'd have done like the all-day show, I still think we'd have had like 5 teams of guys where everybody's like, well, there are no weaknesses on this team.
I was going to say, I don't think anybody would be a reach. And I even feel that way looking at our team now. Maybe there's 1 or 2 guys where you go, okay, like maybe I'm not as familiar with this game.
Freshman receivers is probably a little bit of a reach.
Sure. But the potential is through the roof.
Yeah. If I hit on both of them, like my offense can't be stopped.
Sure. I wouldn't disagree. I mean, this was a really fun exercise. I'm really happy.
Andrew says Cody's team wins 3-0. Look, as good as our defenses are, ain't nobody getting shut out in this game.
I totally agree. I was gonna say, I think the issue is that no one's gonna stop anyone. Like, look at our team. Like, your offensive front is so dominant. My skill guys are ridiculous. I don't think there's a way either of us get stopped. The only thing I think you might do to me is you might suffocate me on the ground, and I may only get the ball sub 6 times.
See, that's the problem. Is my offense is designed when it's rolling that I never have to throw.
Right.
And I will do that. I will do that to you.
Yep.
But then the thing is, if you are like, you're so athletic defensively, you would be able to, especially like, because the triple is designed to not have negative plays.
Right.
But I might have some zeros against that group you have. That's where Cam Coleman over the top is a problem for you.
Yep. And I would say if I were to get a lead early, I worry about your team being able to come back because you'll have to rely on some of that passing game. But if
Right.
you get ahead, you may never lose it.
No, I'm never throwing the ball again. I'm just running out the clock. So this is tremendous. Cody, this was so much fun. We're going to have to do it again. I actually have an idea for you.
Okay.
For a couple weeks from now, we may have a game show. Have you ever been a game show contestant before?
I haven't, but boy, I would be so thrilled to be one. That sounds
so.
fantastic.
I was actually contestant on Idiot Savants on MTV in 1997.
What the hell
Spring
is
break,
that?
Panama City Beach. Yeah, I finished number 3 of 3 contestants.
What year was that? 97?
97. Yeah,
I
freshman
was
year of
4
college.
years old, cranking it out.
Yeah. I don't want to talk about it, but we played this game a few months ago. We played it before the 23 season. We called it Whose Team Is It Anyway? And we throw out a transfer, and you have to say where they came from and who they're playing for now. I called Pete Nakos yesterday. I said, "Have you ever wanted to be a game show host?" So Pete Nakos will be our Steve Harvey, our Alex Trebek, our Peter Tomarkin, if you will.
Because if I was going against Pete, I was like, I'm gonna phone it in now. I'm not gonna show up to the event. That's game over. But him as a host.
Oh yeah, no, that was initially. I was like, we could do Pete. I'll be the host, and it's Pete versus Cody. But that's not fair.
I'm smoked.
Yeah.
Look,
Pete's gonna be like Trebek, where even if he doesn't know the answer, it's gonna sound like he does
for sure.
And he's gonna the contempt with which he will regard us when we don't get it right,
correct,
is going to be profound.
Just a disappointed dad. I'm gonna feel that the whole time.
Exactly, Cody. This has been spectacular. Folks, tomorrow is a Dear Andy episode. So get those questions in. You know how much I love answering your questions. Hit me up on social media at Andy_Staples on Twitter and on Instagram. If you have a truly epic question, or if you want to turn the camera on yourself and send it on video, AndyStaplesOn3@gmail.com. Get them in. We've already got a couple that have come in, but we love your questions. Hit us up, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.